Greetings, geeks. Adam here, kicking off a new video series we're calling Issue Hullabaloo. And what is the Hullabaloo all about? Well, if you haven't heard, today we have a pre-launch page up for our Kickstarter campaign for a half issue. That is right. Wizards, the podcast guide to comics, is working with, hey, our co-host, Mike Schwartz, to create a half comic of his Armored series. If you don't know about Armored, it is an awesome comic book that he created that is about a kid who finds a mystical suit of armor that's inhabited, it's haunted by the ghost of the knight who wore it previously, and he's fighting these monsters. I mean, it's a really, really cool story. Armored is in stores now. I just picked up my copy of issue 4 that had a cover by David Mack. But we've been talking and we said, hey, we should do a half issue of that because we love Wizard Magazine. We love the history of Wizard Magazine. And what was a bigger part of that? For so many years were the half issues. You would get your issue like, how about this? Oh yeah, issue 30. There's Beavis and Butthead on the cover, right? And he'd be flipping through, and then he'd say, what's this thing in the middle? There's a little certificate. That's right. It's telling me that I can order Gen 13 half. Oh, and all I have to pay is shipping and handling? What a deal. So, that being the case, I'm going to start reviewing a few of the half issues. They are just something that we talk about. We always say, oh, this came with an offer for a half issue, but we haven't told you what is in these half issues every time. And as we are in the exciting phase of getting you hyped for what is to come when the half issue is offered, and there are many details there, you can just go on over to Kickstarter. If you search Armored Half, you'll be able to find it. But I'll put a link in the show notes as well here, so you can check that out in the description. But yeah, just get on over there and see what we're doing and get ready for the launch. If you follow now, you'll be notified immediately once the campaign actually launches. And if you want to be a backer and help us out, boy, even better. And you get an exclusive half issue to go with your collection of other Wizard half issues. So the one we're going to talk about today is Gen 13 half. Those of you who listen to Wizards, the podcast guide to comics, you know that I'm a huge Gen 13 fan, and I was collecting it for years and reading it, loving every issue. So this is interesting. This is actually the second Wizard half issue that was offered. I will tell you, the first one I'm not going to be reviewing because that is a part of our Armored half issue. There is an exclusive history of half issues that we are writing up there that we've researched and interviewed former Wizard staffers, including Gareb Shamus himself, about how this whole idea came together. So that will be revealed there. But I wanted to tell you about Gen 13 half. So this is interesting for those who don't recall. It started out as Gen X, and then Marvel was like, we're doing Generation X, so they had to change it to Gen 13. And by the time this was finally coming out, the mini series was in full swing for Gen 13, and it was a big hit. J. Scott Campbell was this hot new artist. I will tell you, J. Scott Campbell is not the artist on here. It's actually Ryan Benjamin. But Jim Lee and Brandon Choi were doing the story for this. Of course, Brandon Choi was the series writer. Okay. Other fun thing, obviously, there's this little hologram sticker, and I will tell you in the half history, you're going to learn a lot about this little sticker and if it was easy or not to include as part of this very thin comic, but something they wanted to make special. So in this story, what goes on is the kids are taking a road trip. They have left this whole they were with IO, the little black ops kind of operation where they were all being experimented on, and they were releasing their gen factor. Some might call it their mutant power, right? So that was something that was the crux of that story. We want to have super soldiers. Let's raise up these kids that have the potential. Anyway, by the end, they are free and they break out. So now they're on a road trip heading across the country. They are now in Oregon when the story picks up, and they're just making a pit stop. Remember, these are like, college age kids. So they are just going to get some gas, go into the mini mart, and wouldn't you know it, some type of supervillain is bound to show up. Yeah, in Oregon in the middle of nowhere. And so they end up getting into a battle. Now, I will say what's cool about this is that it's a very like bombastic thing. You might think, oh, well, it's a half issue. They're not going to put a lot of attention into it. There's which whatever comes out. But no, this was a very well well thought out fight. There's some cool moments like Grunge absorbs a fire hydrant, and in a strange thing that wasn't usually normally his powers, he just takes on, his skin, the properties of that thing. But in this case, he actually grows like a fire hydrant cap off his shoulder, which is kind of weird. I think they were still defining what his powers were. But this super villain is what they name her, but she's like this woman in all this armor that is battling them. She seems to be related to Stormwatch, and she keeps talking about Langston. So if you were really deep into the Wildstorm universe at that point and what Jim Lee was putting out in his comics, you could see the tie-in there. But ultimately, like, there's some really fun stuff. At a certain point, like I say, they're near a gas station. There's a gas leak, and Free Fall is always smoking. That was her thing at the time. And there's a little leak that goes near the villain. She throws her cigarette, causes an explosion, but it still doesn't stop the villain. And even, you have Burnout was trying his heat powers, but that didn't really do much. Her armor is very resistant. So ultimately, Fairchild sneaks up behind, pulls out her power supply. So now her armor can't function. And then the kids kind of take off. They leave a note, Spider-Man style, where they're just like, this is a person who did all this destruction. We gotta go, because they don't want to be found out. They don't want to be tracked by the government. But it's got all the banter you would expect between the characters. The only thing I'll just say, the character models are a little bit different, but was early days. It's not even to say that Ryan Benjamin is that much different than what J. Scott Campbell was doing in the first few issues of that miniseries. But it's just kind of like Freefall's hair is a little bit longer, things like that. But yeah, Gen 13 half, I think it's a winner. I think it's a fun piece, at least the early days of the legacy. So it's great to get a chance to reread that and share it with you. I should say in the back as well, in addition to the story itself, they would offer plenty of extras, stuff like a Gen 13 sketchbook. We are also going to have a sketchbook feature in the Armored Half issue. So if you go on over to Kickstarter, like I say, follow the campaign there and make sure that you are ready for when it actually launches in full. We have so much more to share with you. All the details will be coming out, all the artists involved and everybody else. But again, thank you for checking out this video. And until next time, keep your books bagged and boarded.